A stunning shift has emerged from Venezuela, just 24 hours after condemning the United States for what she called an illegal and illegitimate kidnapping of President Nicolas Maduro. Vice President Delcy Rodríguez has released a dramatically different message. In a post to social media, Rodríguez wrote, "Venezuela reaffirms its vocation for peace and peaceful coexistence. Our country aspires to live without external threats in an environment of respect and international cooperation." She continued, "We believe that global peace is built by first guaranteeing the peace of each nation." The tone is unmistakable. This is not the defiant rhetoric of 24 hours ago. This is an invitation. The contrast could not be more stark. On Saturday, Rodríguez appeared on Venezuelan state television and called the U.S. operation barbaric and a brutal aggression. She declared, "There is only one president in this country, and his name is Nicolas Maduro Moros." She demanded the immediate release of Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. She called it an illegal and illegitimate kidnapping. Now, just one day later, her message has transformed. Rodríguez wrote, "We consider it a priority to advance toward a balanced and respectful international relationship between the United States and Venezuela, and between Venezuela and the countries of the region." She added, "Based on sovereign equality and non-interference, these principles guide our diplomacy with the rest of the countries of the world." Most striking is Rodríguez's direct appeal to President Trump. She wrote, "We extend an invitation to the government of the United States to work together on a cooperation agenda oriented toward shared development within the framework of international legality, and to strengthen lasting community coexistence." Then she addressed Trump directly. "President Donald Trump, attention. Our peoples and our region deserve peace and dialogue, not war." She continued, "That has always been the preaching of President Nicolas Maduro, and it is that of all Venezuela at this moment." Rodríguez signed the message as Acting President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. This is the first time she has publicly used that title. Analysts are noting what is absent from Rodríguez's new statement. There is no demand for Maduro's release. There is no condemnation of the kidnapping. There is no accusation of imperial aggression. Instead, there is an invitation to cooperate. As one commentator noted, "This doesn't differ much from what Nicolás Maduro said 2 days before his detention when he offered to work jointly with the United States against narco-terrorism." The question now, is this a genuine shift toward negotiation, or a tactical move ahead of Monday's UN Security Council meeting? Rodríguez's message concluded with a personal appeal. She wrote, "This is the Venezuela I believe in, the one to which I have dedicated my life. My dream is that Venezuela be a great power where all Venezuelans of goodwill can come together. Venezuela has the right to peace, to development, to its sovereignty, and to the future." The language is conciliatory. The tone is diplomatic. Gone is the rhetoric of resistance and defiance. In its place, an olive branch extended to Washington. To understand the magnitude of this shift, we must look at what Rodríguez said just 24 hours earlier. On Saturday, she appeared before the National Defense Council and delivered a very different message. She declared, "The government of the United States launched an unprecedented military aggression against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. This constitutes a terrible stain on the development of bilateral relations. In this military operation, President Nicolas Maduro and the First Lady, the first combatant Celia Flores, were captured." Rodríguez continued her condemnation. "We had already warned that an aggression was underway under false excuses, and that the masks had fallen, revealing only one objective: regime change in Venezuela. A regime change that would also allow for the seizure of our energy resources, our mineral resources, and our natural resources. That is the true objective, and the world and the international community must know that this is the case." This was the language of confrontation. This was the language of resistance. On Saturday, Rodríguez convened Venezuela's National Defense Council. She announced who was present. "We have convened this National Defense Council in which the public powers of the Venezuelan state are participating. We are joined by the President of the Legislative Power of Venezuela, Dr. Jorge Rodríguez. The President of the Judicial Power, Dr. Carelia Beatriz. The President of the Moral Power, Attorney General Tarek William Saab. We are also joined by the Minister of Defense, the head of the Strategic Operational Command, the Vice President for Citizen Security, the Council of Vice Presidents, and the Chancellor of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. From that council, Rodríguez issued her demand. From this body, we demand the immediate release of President Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. The only president of Venezuela is President Nicolás Maduro. She emphasized, there is only one president in this country, and his name is Nicolás Maduro Moros. She added, with the decree signed, we are proceeding in this National Defense Council to hand it over to the President of the Supreme Tribunal of Justice for its constitutional endorsement. This was a declaration of continued loyalty to Maduro. Now, 24 hours later, she signs as acting president. On Saturday, Rodríguez declared Venezuela was mobilized. Here is the most important high command of the Venezuelan state, the military high command, the state high command, the high command of the Council of Vice Presidents. All political factors of national power in Venezuela are united, but there are also the streets of Venezuela. There is a people that has activated itself in response to a call that the President of the Republic had already made, warning, if something were to happen to President Nicolás Maduro, people to the streets will be activated. The core of militants at their workplaces activated. The National Bolivarian Armed Forces activated and deployed throughout the national territory. Citizen security agencies activated, all the national power of Venezuela activated. Rodríguez claimed international support. By inheritance, we have the sacred duty to safeguard what is ours, our national independence, our sovereignty, and our territorial integrity, which has been savagely attacked in the early hours of today. The international community has joined in and raised its voices of support for Venezuela from China, Russia, Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia. The governments of the world are simply shocked that it is the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela that is victim and target of an attack of this nature. She added, controversially, which undoubtedly has Zionist overtones. It is truly shameful. Rodríguez issued a warning to the world. What they did to Venezuela today can be done to just anyone. That brutal use of force to twist the will of the peoples, it can be done to any country. Today they did it to the people of Bolivar. And rest assured that the Venezuelan people, who are wise, who are patient, who possess strategic patience, will know how to find the path for the defense of peace, for the defense of tranquility, and for the defense of the homeland. That was Saturday. By Sunday evening, the message had completely changed. The Venezuelan military also issued a statement on Saturday. The Bolivarian National Armed Forces declared that, in the early hours of today, January 3rd, the Venezuelan people have been subjected to the most criminal military aggression by the government of the United States of America. The statement described the operation. So far, the barbarity of the invading forces that have desecrated our sacred soil in the areas of Fort Tiuna, Caracas, and the states of Miranda, Aragua, and La Guaira has reached the point of striking with their missiles and rockets fired from combat helicopters into residential areas populated by civilians. The military said it was gathering information regarding the wounded and the dead. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez appeared in video from a bunker. He called it the most criminal military aggression Venezuela has ever suffered. He condemned what he called a flagrant violation of the United Nations Charter and international law. This invasion represents the greatest outrage the country has ever suffered, Padrino Lopez declared, driven by the insatiable greed for our strategic resources. Far from any supposed fight against narco-terrorism, this deplorable action seeks to definitively force a regime change and subject us to the spurious designs of North American imperialism. Padrino Lopez issued a defiant statement. They have attacked us, but they will not break us. United soldiers and people, we will form an indestructible wall of resistance. Our profound calling is peace, but our enduring heritage is the constant struggle for true freedom. We who always extend our hand in genuine brotherhood, today, resolutely clench our mighty fist in steadfast defense of what is rightfully ours. Let us unite, for in the unity of the people, we will find the strength to resist and to triumph. The military announced emergency measures. In the midst of this imperial onslaught, I make a fervent call for serenity and reason, to maintain unity and calm. In compliance with the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, the organic law on states of exception, and the organic law of national security, we fully support the decree of a state of external commotion throughout the national territory. Consequently, the men and women of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, following the instructions of citizen Nicolás Maduro Moros, constitutional president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, our commander-in-chief, will deploy all our capabilities for the comprehensive defense of the nation. The military statement continued. We will activate across the entire spectrum of the national geographic space, and in perfect popular military police unity, the full operational readiness through the massive deployment of all land, air, naval, riverine, and missile resources. Advanced weapon systems are absolutely essential for a truly comprehensive national defense, with the primary purpose of ensuring the seamless integration of all the vital elements of national power in the critical mission to effectively confront and decisively overcome all imperial threats, thereby forming a single unified and formidable combat bloc. Padrino Lopez concluded with a rallying cry. Our profound honor, unwavering duty, and rich history profoundly call upon each and every one of us to act now. Let the powerful cry of a truly free homeland resound loudly and clearly in every single corner of our beloved nation. Victory is absolutely ours, because unwavering reason and profound dignity are firmly on our side. We shall most certainly prevail. Long live the homeland. That was the military's defiant stance on Saturday. Now, 24 hours later, the civilian leadership is extending an olive branch. While Venezuela debates its response, Maduro's location has been confirmed. He is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. This is the same facility currently housing Sean Diddy Combs and Luigi Mangione. The timeline of his movement: 4:29 a.m. Eastern Time on January 3rd. Placed aboard USS Iwo Jima after extraction from Venezuela. Approximately 4:30 p.m. Eastern, arrived at Stewart Air National Guard Base in New York aboard a Department of Justice aircraft. Evening of January 3rd, processed at DEA headquarters in Manhattan. 8:52 p.m. Eastern, arrived at MDC Brooklyn. The Trump administration has released several images documenting Maduro's capture. The photo posted by Trump on Truth Social shows Maduro wearing gray Nike Tech sweatpants and jacket, blindfolded with blackout goggles, noise-canceling headphones, handcuffs, and holding a water bottle. Trump's caption read, "Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima." Video footage released by the White House shows Maduro being escorted by DEA agents in New York, wearing a hoodie, sweatpants, sandals with socks, and a beanie. Reports say Maduro appeared surprisingly calm, reportedly saying "Good night and Happy New Year" to onlookers. At Stewart Airport, Maduro flashed a thumbs up while being led in shackles. Maduro's wife, Celia Flores, was also captured. Photos show her wearing an olive green hoodie with her head bandaged from an injury sustained during the operation. Her exact confinement status at MDC Brooklyn remains unknown. Both are scheduled to appear in Manhattan Federal Court on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. They will appear before Judge Alvin Hellerstein for arraignment. A superseding indictment was unsealed charging Maduro with 4 counts. 1. Narco-terrorism conspiracy. 2. Cocaine importation conspiracy. 3. Possession of machine guns and destructive devices. 4. Conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. Prosecutors allege Maduro partnered with his co-conspirators to use his illegally obtained authority and the institutions he corroded to transport thousands of tons of cocaine to the United States. If convicted, Maduro faces life imprisonment. Details of the operation have emerged. Delta Force led the ground extraction, supported by the 161st Special Operations Aviation Regiment, known as the Night Stalkers. FBI hostage rescue team and DEA agents participated. A CIA team had been embedded in Venezuela since August 2025, tracking Maduro's movements. Over 150 aircraft launched from 20 different bases across the Western Hemisphere. Trump gave final authorization at 10:46 p.m. Eastern on January 2nd. Helicopters touched down at Maduro's compound in Fort Tiuna, Venezuela's largest military complex, at approximately 2:01 a.m. local time on January 3rd. U.S. forces had disabled Venezuela's air defenses and cut Caracas's electricity. The kinetic action lasted approximately 30 minutes. President Trump praised the operation. He called it one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. Trump stated the U.S. would run Venezuela temporarily until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. On the upcoming trial, Trump said, "We're just going to go through a slog of a trial. The case is infallible. People are so happy with what we've done." Trump also issued a warning to acting President Rodríguez. If she doesn't cooperate, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. Secretary of State Marco Rubio appeared on Meet the Press. He stated, "We are at war against drug trafficking organizations. It's not a war against Venezuela." Rubio added, "Nicolás Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man." Attorney General Pam Bondi stated, "They will soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil in American courts." Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reportedly stated Maduro effed around and he found out. International reaction has been sharp. Russia called the operation an act of armed aggression against Venezuela and demanded Maduro's release. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov called Rodríguez to express solidarity. China said it was deeply shocked and strongly condemns the action. China's foreign ministry demanded Maduro's immediate release and warned against any country acting as world policeman. Notably, Chinese diplomats had met with Maduro just hours before the strike. Latin American reaction is sharply divided, condemning the intervention. Brazil's Lula called it crossing an unacceptable line. Mexico's Sheinbaum condemned the military intervention. Colombia's Petro rejects the aggression. Cuba called it state terrorism. Celebrating the capture, Argentina's Milei posted "La Libertad Avanza." Ecuador, Panama, and El Salvador also expressed support. European responses show tension. The EU called for restraint. UK Prime Minister Starmer said Britain shed no tears but wasn't involved. France's Macron welcomed the end of Maduro's dictatorship, while Foreign Minister Barrett said it violates the principle of not resorting to force. The UN Security Council will hold an emergency meeting Monday at 10 a.m., 15 GMT. The meeting was requested by Colombia. Secretary General Guterres called the developments a dangerous precedent and expressed deep concern that the rules of international law have not been respected. Russia is expected to demand condemnation of the U.S. action. The outcome will signal how the international community responds to this unprecedented operation. So, what does Rodríguez's dramatic shift mean? Analysts suggest several possibilities. 1. The Venezuelan government recognizes it cannot resist U.S. military power and is seeking a negotiated solution. 2. The statement is tactical, designed to improve Venezuela's position before the UN Security Council meeting. 3. There may be divisions within the Chavista leadership about how to respond. 4. Rodríguez may be positioning herself for a transition government. The fact that she now signs as acting president, rather than demanding Maduro's release, is significant. This shift echoes what Maduro himself said just 2 days before his capture. In a widely circulated interview, Maduro offered to work jointly with the United States against narco-terrorism. He said, "If they want to seriously discuss an agreement to combat drug trafficking, we're ready. And if they want oil, Venezuela is ready for investment whenever they want, wherever they want." But he added a warning: no extortion. Less than 48 hours later, he was in U.S. custody. The contrast in Rodríguez's messaging is extraordinary. Saturday, illegal and illegitimate kidnapping. Sunday, invitation to work together on a cooperation agenda. Saturday, the only president is Nicolás Maduro Moros. Sunday, signs as acting president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Saturday, brutal use of force. Sunday, our peoples deserve peace and dialogue, not war. Saturday, masks have fallen. Regime change is the objective. Sunday, Venezuela reaffirms its vocation for peace. Reports describe the streets of Caracas as largely quiet. Long lines have formed at supermarkets and gas stations. The massive mobilization promised by the government has not materialized. The colectivos, armed civilian groups loyal to Maduro, have not engaged in widespread action. The military remains in barracks. The defiant rhetoric has not translated into resistance. Venezuela's Chavista power structure remains largely intact. Diosdado Cabello, the powerful interior minister, appeared on television wearing a bulletproof vest. He called it a cowardly attack and criminal terrorist attack. He urged calm while mobilizing supporters with the phrase, "Alerta, alerta, los motorizados alerta." Defense Minister Padrino Lopez confirmed he survived. National Assembly head Jorge Rodríguez participated in the National Defense Council. The leadership structure endures, even if its leader is in a Brooklyn jail cell. The next major development comes Monday. At 12 p.m. Eastern Time, Maduro and Cilia Flores will appear in Manhattan Federal Court. They will face Judge Alvin Hellerstein for arraignment. The appearance will start the clock for prosecutors to turn over evidence. It remains unclear whether either defendant has retained legal counsel. Trump has acknowledged, "We're just going to go through a slog of a trial." Venezuela's political future remains uncertain. Trump rejected opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, saying she doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. Edmundo González Urrutia, widely recognized as the 2024 election winner, remains in exile in Spain. He has called for Venezuelans to prepare for the great operation of the reconstruction of our nation. Whether Rodriguez's olive branch leads to negotiations, or whether the U.S. proceeds with its own plans, remains to be seen. The events of the past 48 hours suggest a government in transition. On Saturday, Delcy Rodríguez declared, "There is only one president in this country, and his name is Nicolás Maduro Moros." On Sunday, she signed as acting president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. On Saturday, she demanded Maduro's immediate release. On Sunday, she invited the United States to work together on a cooperation agenda. The military promised massive deployment and an indestructible wall of resistance. The streets of Caracas are quiet. Maduro sits in a Brooklyn detention center awaiting trial. His wife's head is bandaged from the operation. Russia and China demand his release. The UN Security Council meets Monday. The court hearing is Monday at noon, and Venezuela's acting president is extending an olive branch to the man who ordered her predecessor's capture. The confrontation has entered a new phase. The rhetoric of resistance is giving way to the reality of negotiation. What happens next will shape Venezuela's future and the precedent for U.S. power in the Western Hemisphere. The world is watching.
The government of the United States has launched an unprecedented military aggression against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. It constitutes a truly terrible stain upon the entire development of our bilateral relations. During that military operation, President Nicolás Maduro himself was captured, along with the First Lady, the first combatant, Cilia Flores. We had already warned that an aggression was underway based on false excuses and fabricated pretexts. We stated that their masks had fallen and that there was only one objective: regime change in Venezuela. And that this regime change would furthermore allow for the complete capture of our energy resources, of our mineral resources, and of our natural resources. That is the true objective, and the world and the international community must know that this is the case. Today, the Venezuelan people we have convened this National Defense Council where all the public powers of the Venezuelan state are participating. We are joined by the President of the Legislative Power of Venezuela, Dr. Jorge Rodríguez. Also with us is the President of the Judicial Power, Dr. Carilia Beatriz, and the President of the Moral Power, Attorney General Tarek William Saab. Also accompanying us, in addition, is the Minister of Defense, the head of the Strategic Operational Command, the Vice President for Citizen Security, the Council of Vice Presidents, and the Foreign Minister of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, as well as special guests whom we have convened for this National Defense Council meeting. From this moment, we demand the immediate and unconditional release of President Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores, the one and only legitimate president of Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro. We are absolutely determined to achieve freedom and liberty for all. Here is the most important high command of the Venezuelan state, the states, the military high command, the supreme command of the government, and the high command of the Council of Vice Presidents. All the political factors of national power in Venezuela are now united and working together. But also, in the streets of Venezuela, there's a populace that has mobilized in response to a call already made by the President of the Republic. And he had warned if anything were to happen to President Nicolas Maduro, the people to the streets activated a body of militants. At their workplaces, activated the Bolivarian National Armed Force, activated and deployed throughout the national territory, citizen security agencies activated, all of Venezuela's national power activated. Caestabium of empires, nor of empires in decline. As a matter of our inheritance, we have the sacred duty to safeguard our national independence, our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, which has been savagely attacked in the early hours of this very day. The international community has come together, uniting and raising their voices in a powerful show of support for Venezuela from China, Russia, across all of Latin America, the Caribbean nations, throughout Africa, and all of Asia. The governments of the world are simply shocked that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela should be the victim and the object of an attack of this nature, which, without any doubt whatsoever, possesses a Zionist character. It is truly disgraceful. A very high awareness of what and the conscious Venezuelan people, with their sacred fire of the homeland ignited, are outraged by what is the illegal, illegitimate kidnapping of the president and the first lady, first combatant Celia Flores. All of Venezuela is now activated. And the decree, which has already been signed by President Maduro, the one and only legitimate president of Venezuela. There is but one president in this entire country, and his name is Nicolas Maduro Moros. And with the decree having been duly signed, we are now proceeding within the framework of this National Defense Council to formally present it to the esteemed President of the Supreme Court of Justice for its due constitutional backing, as it should be provided in the Constitutional Court, that no blockade, what they did to Venezuela today, they could do to anyone. That brutal use of force to twist the will of the people, they can inflict upon any country. Today, they did it to the people of Bolivar. And you can be absolutely certain that the Venezuelan people, who are wise, who are patient, and who possess strategic patience, will certainly find the way for the defense of peace, for the defense of tranquility, and for the defense of our homeland. My sincerest thanks to all of you.